Hello. So I'd like to quickly run through this racer that I did for 3D World. It was a tutorial they asked me to do, and I just came up with some work to kind of demonstrate the method that I go through making stuff generally. And I do this again and again because I've been using polys in Max for a while now. I was really stuck. I didn't know how to make anything, and I watched a YouTube tutorial on how to make a car in polys, followed it through, and was just like, wow, this is so much fun. I haven't even bothered using 3D Coat or ZBrush or any of these other amazing new softwares because I'm just having so much fun in polys. So let me show you the method that I used and talk you through it. And you can find all of the notes and properly written article and stuff in the download file, but I'll just talk you through the images. So this is one of the final images. And if I just go to this, I can show you the progress through the project. So I obviously started off with research as normal, just looking at the kind of vehicle I wanted to make. The idea was to make it so that if you're wearing an Oculus, you can be really involved in the sensation of speed. So a very kind of transparent cabin at the front. But I like to, whenever I do a project, as a kind of way of showing off, basically, I like to try and make it something that I've never seen before. I like to try and do work that I would want to see out there in the world. So I was like, how can I do this that's never been done quite this way, i.e. change something that exists already a little bit. So I looked at Wipeout. I fucking love Wipeout. When I was a kid, Wipeout was the first really cool game. Like, it had kind of really awesome dance music, and it wasn't obviously for little kids. It was, when you're 12 or 13 or whatever, you want to be like, you don't want to be doing stuff that little kids like. You want to be grown up. So I loved Wipeout, and it kind of shaped my music taste for years afterwards. I still love the Chemical Brothers and Warp Records and Designers Republic and all of that kind of stuff. So Wipeout was a big influence, and I didn't want to do just another copy of Wipeout. I think Wipeout's been done to death, so I was like, okay, how can I capture that Wipeout vibe without just completely ripping it off? So I looked at research again. I love this dolphin thing. There's another one that's shaped like an orca. It's painted up like an orca, and you can sit inside it and drive along. It's like, that's amazing. I love it. I want one. So that was my thinking. Blackbird, obviously, it's the coolest thing ever. So you can't mess with a blackbird. It just gives you that feeling of speed even when it stood still. It's just so awesome. I love it. I went to see one recently, and it was like walking into the room of a dragon. It was amazing. So yeah, if you ever get a chance, go and have a look at a blackbird. It's quite something. So started out making very rough models. I like to do this when I'm thinking on my first day of work, just to kind of play around with shapes in 3D. And also not rule out anything. Like, I thought this was kind of goofy, these ridiculous ears, like Goofy's ears. But, sometimes the goofiness is overlooked by other people. They just want to go for something that's super cool, and they miss out on the coolness that hides in the goofiness. So, so there's more of these, blah, blah. And I wasn't really feeling it, but I thought, there's maybe some potential. And I've saved this model, actually, because I thought I might come back to this kind of round, blobby wing. I thought that was kind of cool. I like stuff that looks elegant or fast in one plane and kind of dumb in another. It's just one of those things. But I found this, and I thought, this is amazing. I love this. Look how economical it is. It's just an engine, some tailplanes, and a cockpit. I mean, I would love one of these in real life in black with a gold stripe. I don't know what it is. If anyone knows what this is, please let me know. It looks like it's got a rocket engine in there. I don't know. Anyway, and I thought, what if this is an easy way of making some work quickly for this article, because I only had a few days to do it. I thought, fuck, got to get this done. What if I just flipped it upside down? Because then you're like basically sitting in the cockpit as it zooms over the ground, and you get this amazing sensation of speed. And that is exactly what I did. So I did some sketches. You can see that some of these sketches are kind of bulbous and they don't have that sensation of speed. I even drew a Nike tick on the side of this one to try and help out, and it just didn't work. But thinking about Nike ticks, you get that kind of swoosh shape that looks like it's moving quickly, as if it's tricking the bit of your brain that predicts trajectories. So if you throw something in there and you catch it, your brain kind of predicts ahead where it's going to be, and you put your hands there. And I thought maybe that could be a way of tricking the eye. And so I copied the Nike tick, as I often do in my work. I love the Nike tick. And I thought these were starting to have some potential, these upside down jets. And if you flip it the other way up, you can see it really is just a sort of a jet that's been flipped upside down. And I thought, yeah, that's got potential. Let's start making a simple model. I did another sketch, more detailed. Yes, so I started making simple models. Let me just flip across to a different folder and I'll show you how I made these. So, yes. How do I zoom out? There we go. So I started with a cylinder. I like to start with a 5-sided cylinder and just cut the end off. And if you look in here, you can see all of the settings. I use all default settings. Cut the end off and then drag it out by selecting the end boundary. So, I'm not sure why this is so low res, but anyway, select the end boundary and drag it out. And you can change the shape of this by dragging it, pulling these points around. And I just put the sketch on a plane, on a flat plane, and drag out the cylinder till it's roughly matching the shape of the drawing on the side. So you can see that I've just kind of very roughly pulled out. The reason I like 5 sides is because you get a flat top, a nice waistline, or a chine as it's called in planes, and a sharp bottom. So that just seems to be a way that works for me. And you can see this is what I made. And actually I have this open in 3D, so you should be able to see it. There you go. This is what I came up with after a bit of experimentation. So let's go back to this. So yeah, I made this simple model, dragged it out, and then what you can do is, if you've only made one side, because you don't want to have to make both sides exactly the same, it'd be a real pain, but it's nice that you can move one side around and it will be reflected in the other side. So what you do is you make a symmetry modifier. So you go up here, push symmetry, and you get this this flipped version on the other side. But sometimes the mirror, if you like, isn't in the right place. You have to move it around. I think if we go back to 3ds Max, you can actually see that. We just enlarge the. Oh no, I can't biggen the view area. What I'll do is I'll record a video and insert it immediately after this, showing you how I've done this. Cut. Okay. Okay, so this is with the symmetry modifier switched on. So you go up to the top, push S a bunch of times, and it gives you the symmetry. There you go. So you want that one. And then you can move the mirror around. The mirror, basically, self-explanatory what it does. Oops, mirror. You need to click on the sub-object mirror. If that's not visible, it'll be like that. Click that little plus shape thing and it'll be there, mirror. And then you can move it around. It's really fun. You can do all kinds of weird stuff. So you can make a load of shapes and then flip them all. And you get this bizarre, like, half shape thing going on. It's pretty sweet. I love it. You can animate this, so you can actually have stuff just appear like that, which is funny. Or like, what happens if you turn it? That's looking crazy. So if you get like a realistic object that's realistically rendered and then do this stuff to it, it's proper brain bending. It's really fun. And it's the one I want, so that's go to the top view. You can move the mirror around. It's already put itself in the middle, but that's where you want it. But as I say, you can make some really weird stuff if you start doing stuff like that. Like, what does that look like as a spaceship? It's really fun just making random shapes and then mirroring them, because you often get quite interesting results. That's something to keep in mind. And I find that's true with a lot of the tools. You can just sort of mess around with them and you get interesting shapes and results. I remember listening to Gareth Edwards, the guy who made Monsters, one of my favourite movies. He went on to make Godzilla, but he made Monsters almost on his own. And he found out that he was playing around with some rope plug-in for one of these softwares, and he found out that if he put the gravity on 0, really strange things started to happen that weren't really intended, and that's how he animated the tentacles in the movie Monsters. So I thought it was a great story. I really like how you could just start messing around and hacking around with these tools and getting really odd results that are interesting. Okay, so this is the model, and when you want to mesh smooth it, go up to your modifiers up here. I push M just so it goes down all of these different options a load of times. There we go, mesh smooth. There you go. You can fiddle around with the iterations. Iterations means number of times that the operation is applied. The more you put in, the more process time it takes, because there's more kind of subdivisions. So you don't want to drag this up, because it'll go from like 1 to 50, and then the computer will just be there till the end of the universe trying to process it. Just do like 2 or 3. I find is more than enough. 4 if you're feeling really crazy, but that's more than enough. And then you get this nice smooth model. So if I just push F3 and give you the mesh view, you can turn that on and off and it's super fun. I love just messing around with it. And what happens if I drag? Let's go to editable vertex. So if I could drag this over here like this, and get a polygon and drag that over here like this, and get that, and just drag that out like this, and I don't know what happens if I do this, and then it's F3 so we can see the surface, and then mesh smooth it. It's friggin' crazy. It's really fun. You can, and it's not because I'm not really in control of it. It comes up with these bizarre shapes, and you're like, man, that actually looks kind of cool. I much prefer finding stuff than designing it. I'll have a basic idea and know what to design, but I try and keep it loose so that I'm open to these weird mistakes that happen. I love little failures and problems and fuck ups. They're way more interesting than my actual ideas. So I tend to kind of keep an eye out for those. Failure is your friend. Okay, back to the video. Maps being the images that you apply to the surface. So you can see here that I've got this white version, and then this is an opacity map. So areas that are black on the map are white and opaque. Sorry, are transparent, and areas that are white are opaque. And then this is the one with all the maps: the diffuse, the bump, and the opacity applied. So if I go to my other model, you can see it. So this is the one with all of that stuff applied. Actually, if I move this window down, it should fit within the recorder. Yes. Excellent. Okay. Because I made this as an older version of Max, it doesn't allow me to select any of the geometry. Thanks very much, Autodesk, for that useful feature. You can select it as long as it's in perspective mode, I think. Oh no, even in perspective mode it doesn't work properly. It has to be in front or side mode. Anyway, so you can see that's with all of the maps on, and I'll show you in a sec how these looked when they came out. But yeah, basically if you go to the materials editor, and it's this one, you get up. Oh no, that's not, that's the driver. There we go, it's that one, isn't it? It's the white geometry that we saw before with your different maps on it. Bump basically adds little bits of fake relief to the surface, so it kind of creates a, in Photoshop when you can add layer styling like drop shadows and bevel emboss, it's exactly the same thing. It adds this kind of fake geometry to the surface. There's another one called displacement, which actually makes real geometry from the image that you've put in, which is amazingly useful for making things like mountains and stuff like that, because you can get a height map off the internet or paint one and make white the high level mountains and black the low levels, and apply that to a surface, and it actually sculpts the surface. I think that's super fun. I love painting my landscapes. I might come back to that as a future thing to talk about, but I don't want to confuse the issue right now. So this is where we're at the minute. So let's skip to the progression through the shapes that I made, and you can see how they came in. So yeah, I like to fiddle around with the shape quite a bit just to kind of finesse it. In the tutorial I did in the magazine, it looked like I went straight from like sketch to almost finished design to putting it all together, and I just wanted to do that to make it simple, because otherwise it'd be like a 50-page tutorial with a lot of the pages just being boring rubbish. But for you guys, you get all the boring rubbish, so you can see how it progresses. It's already kind of quite where I wanted it to be, but it's not right. The stuff that you just come up with as time goes by, like maybe the seat could be more involving. I don't really just want this office or like car chair. Maybe there's a more interesting solution to that, and maybe I could make it overall form faster and things like that. By faster I mean just stretch it out lengthwise. That makes things look faster. If it's like a house, it's blocky and square. A super tanker, blocky and square. A missile or a knife, long and sharp, and that just makes them look more vicious. Okay, so there's lots of these, blah blah blah. And I kind of liked it. I thought it was kind of cool for the amount of time I had, a few days. I thought this is good enough. It satisfies all the things I needed to do. I look badass and have a front cockpit that's styled in and transparent. So a few more of these. I put the bump map of lines on it just because it gives it a nice surface contour. Lots more. I thought it looked a bit like one of those frigate birds with the red thing under its mouth, that kind of bag that it has under its mouth, which I quite liked. But then I decided it's a bit much. You don't want to look through a red windscreen all the time. So keep going, put in an engine, and just sort of fiddling around with it. Nothing too revolutionary, just evolutionary. Put in a guy. He is a little dude on a plane that I cut out from a photograph and used his outline as an opacity map, which I can show you actually. Go back to Max. Oh, wrong one. Yeah. Where is he now? It really doesn't make it easy when you can't select any of the geometry for some reason. I think that's just a bug with backwards compatibility. And even if you save the file, it doesn't allow you to mess with stuff that you made in a previous version. Because what it was, I'd been using like a cracked version of Max for absolutely years since I was a kid, and eventually, because of this tutorial, I said to Autodesk, look, you want me to do this tutorial, but I'm using a dodgy copy of your software, so can I have a real one? And they're like, yeah. So that's good of them. Which camera is that? Which one's that? Yeah, there we go. So you can see that it's a guy that I cut out from a motorbike picture, and it's on a white background. So I cut around him and made a opacity map, which if I switch it on, it cuts him out. It was really simple, and it looked absolutely shit, as you can see in the preview. It looks just ridiculous, but it's good enough to paint over the top of, because I didn't really want to have to figure. I didn't have Poser at the point, or Daz, so I just had to do it this way, the easy way. I'm often finding myself doing stuff like that in work. That rather than do the kind of elegant, nice way, I'll just do it the rough and dirty way, just to get stuff out. That sounds so wrong. Okay, so yeah, adding some textures now and putting it on this water surface. I love putting the stuff on this water surface. I used it way too much. Now that Star Wars is starting to do it, it's time has come to stop doing that. But I just love putting it on this water surface because it just looks like it's going fast. It uses almost no processor time, and I just think there's something so beautiful about reflective water. And the way you do this is you make a bump map of noise, like in Photoshop, and then just motion blur it and apply it to a blue surface, a blue glossy surface. Very, very quick way of doing that. And I've put the tutorial for that, the kind of notes for that, in the Dropbox, so you can have a look. As you can see, I was mad into like pod racers and Wipeout and that movie Firefox when I was a kid, when it zooms across the water and cuts up this load of spray from the shockwave. That's another opacity map. So I painted some white spray and used it as both the diffuse and the opacity map, so that everything that's black in the image was cut away. It gives you this nice trail. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. It's just something you can paint over. Lots of graphics. I thought this was awesome. Very waspy. And this is the diffuse map of the side. So this is what I painted for the side textures. And there's the opacity map. I'm just cutting out that windscreen. Okay. Oh yeah, so this is a quick, the rough geometry. I kind of like this actually. It's blocky and weird looking, but I just mesh smoothed it and you can see the effect. So yeah, a major change, just move the polys around a bit. The vertexes, mesh smoothed it, and you get this lovely smoothed out version. Same again. So you get the principle, right? Okay, cool. So let's have a look at the final renders. And there you go. So this is all the stuff we talked about, the textures, the mesh smooth model, the bump map water, which I love. I'm addicted to after years of doing it way too much. I added this flame. I cut out a flame from a picture of a jet plane flame and put it on a lighten layer, which does exactly the same thing as opacity. Anything lighter than mid-range grey is visible. Anything lower than that, like black and mid-range, darker colours, is just invisible and transparent. It's a brilliant trick. I use it all the time. It's cheap. It's probably sniffed at, but who cares? Add a seagull, just so you know that this isn't in virtual world, this is real. I love doing stuff like that, like taking a very virtual looking picture and adding something that looks naturalistic, like a tree or a seagull or something, just to kind of trick the eye into thinking that it's real. That was the final one. And what I'll do is I'll run through the PSD of this to show you how I painted it up from render to finished product in a sec. There's another one. And you can see the motorbike guy on his little flat plane. I painted over him to make him look a bit more 3D, and also kind of, I like that kind of half impressionistic, half realistic look. So you can see brush marks, and he's clearly not the most realistic thing ever. It's no, who's that guy who does those amazing 3D models? Vitali. It's not a Vitali model. You can see it's just incredibly basic, but it did the job. And I like doing things like logos. They're fun. Little in jokes. For example, actually, the Gosper glider and that symbol. Look up what that means. It's really interesting. It's one of my pet hobbies. Another one. Just dropped a photo of a jet engine in there. Obviously, these would be turning, but I thought it kind of looked quite cool with those just stopped, like they were just an intake or something. Just looks badass. Very rough, but blur on it. These were all sketches. These all took like 45 minutes a piece. If I had more time, I'd probably go in and paint it all really carefully. But for the purposes, it was fine. Another one. I love this sensation of speed you get from these streaks. It's really nice, and the reflections are really beautiful as well. Another one. I always like, once I built something, just finding interesting angles of it that I didn't originally conceive of, and then making images from them. Another one. Can't be a bit of foreground blurring, as if the camera's tracking something really quickly, and then everything in the foreground is all blurred, like they're racing. And there we go. Okay, so thanks for watching. I'll add the PSD walkthrough in a sec, but I hope that made sense. And if you have any questions, just hit me up. Yeah, take it easy. Bye.